Oops, I need to get rid of that though. There we go. So, all 3 levels today of challenges completed. This was the beginner. So we've all got really solid scores now on the beginner. I banned some of you from even doing the beginner because you scored so well in the past, so it's good just to challenge yourselves and keep going straight in at the exercise that challenges you and is the current correct level. For most of you, that's still intermediate. For some of you, even after this one, it might be expert. We will see, right? So I think 3 of you did beginner, almost identical scores. Let's see who won. Let's do it the slow reveal. Let's do the sort by rank rather than the quick reveal. In 3rd position, I think, we have Ed. But Ed with a score of 96 pretty much, which is incredibly strong. So this means everyone next time will start on intermediate. Because, yes, you can still train on beginner. You can still train on beginner, but just don't do the challenges, right? On beginner anymore. There's no point, right? If you're scoring this high, you need to move on to the next level. In 2nd was Seb with 96.51. It's a very, very good Seb. Well done. To Ed as well, previously. You're the highest loser if you want to view it like that, Seb. Yeah.
There's no better loser than me.
There's no better loser than you. No, indeed. And that means Kieran won. So well done, Kieran. Yeah. That's why he doesn't want to do intermediate. He wants that victory. Yep. So everyone next time straight in intermediate JavaScript. Yeah. No beginner challenge next time. I won't even set it. Okay. Intermediate was where most of you were at today anyway. Whoa. So quite a range there. But again, some really solid scores on intermediate and great participation. It's quite hard to make sense of what were the toughest questions, but I think 4 and 5 for most people. Question 4 maybe especially seemed to take the longest time for people. And maybe some people didn't even get to 5 because of 4, I think. Let's see how it works. Yeah. Focus, bit up and down depending on the question. Yeah, interesting. Let's just reveal, shall we? Ahmed, he was right. He did do the worst today on the intermediate. So he predicted. But interestingly, what question did he do? Question 4. That's all he did. Yeah. So in my eyes, he did the hardest question. He only answered 1 question, but to me, he answered the hardest question. So I don't know why he skipped the other ones. Maybe just not familiar with those topics, or what. So interesting. Let me just go back, just in case the scores aren't refreshed. Can I go back? Yeah, let's see if we can. 1 player was updated. I don't know whether it was Ahmed. Okay, let's have a look. So I tried to get Ahmed extra points, and I did, obviously. So now in 12th is Kieran, yeah? So Kieran, you did what question?
That's why he doesn't want to do intermediate.
2nd question, right? You skipped the 1st and did the 2nd one only, I think.
Why did now he didn't finish before? That's the reason. He wasn't there.
Yeah, so sometimes our database takes a little while to update, so I just refreshed it to make sure everyone's score got through. All right. Oops. And then 11th, still Ahmed, as we went through before. 10th, Seb. Nice. So the 2 guys that did beginner so far. Makes sense, right? They're just coming into intermediate now, managing to get a question or 2. So fantastic that you've begun to solve some intermediate questions. Keep progressing. I'm sure you will. Sonia was next. So how many questions, Sonia? Was that 3 questions, right? Yes, you managed to get 3 questions. Nice one. A little bit lower on the accuracy, the speed and the focus especially, yeah? So lots of looking up to look the answers. No worries. Ed, cool. Yeah, so good step up from beginner there, Ed. Nicely well done. He's got a W, but he wasn't the winner today, unfortunately, but he's got a nice W profile there. Kieran, nice, over 50, so getting into the decent scores now, the really decent scores. First 3 seemed to go really well, yeah, and then after that it got a bit trickier. Yeah, question 4 and 5 were pretty tricky. Catty, really good score. Again, similar situation. First 3, really well answered. Number 4, all went a bit wrong. Number 5 managed to pull it back a bit for that. So question 4 was definitely where a lot of people began to struggle. Jack, so nice. So Jack managed to do the first 4 questions pretty well. 4 was a bit sticky though, right? A bit hard. And then the fifth one didn't quite get round to it, no?
Flying around with something, didn't know that much.
Sure. But a top 5 result, so well done. Faraj, oof, you've been practicing.
Disappointed with number 4 though. I could have got it there.
Disappointed with number 4, okay. But apart from that, yeah, it was a similar sticking point for most people. Accuracy was really good. And taking care of the elegance as well. So just missed out on the podium. Aim for that podium next time. The top 3, I think it's our usual top 3, right? We usually have Kate, Kelly and Esteban in our top 3, so I think that's going to be the same today. So this time 3rd was Kate. Focus a little bit lower, and the accuracy. So what was the accuracy dropped on? Mainly 4, but also question 1 for some reason. Yeah, you dropped quite a lot of your accuracy on question 1. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, question 1.
Yeah, just a little thing you couldn't find.
Yeah, I made a lot of approach.
Sure.
Accuracy is when you test more than once.
Accuracy is when you press that test button, but you don't get it correct. So that will slightly deduct your accuracy score every time you get a red answer when you test.
Ah.
Yeah. Second, so second was Kelly. Again, accuracy was the worst bit, Kelly, yeah, so just maybe rushing through it a little bit and not taking care of... not that same, right?
You could check those answers.
Yeah, we'll check the answers later and see the difference. But again, really good score, so... And that means the winner was our remote guy with his open books. Yeah, definitely. So well done, Esteban. Congratulations.
Good scores.
Really good scores, yeah, all around. Really, really positive progress. And we even got 3 people having to go at expert. I think again it was our top 3 from intermediate, but let's have a look. So Kelly in 3rd managed to answer question 2. So skip question 1, had a look at question 3. Nah, let's try question 2 instead. So well done for solving your first expert question. Have you done the expert training yet, or is it all nice? So just straight into it in a challenge with only like half an hour remaining. So really well done to solve 1 question. Essentially, if you can solve 3 questions on expert, you've passed the criteria for the course, right? Because it's a score of 40 plus. So if you can solve 3 questions fairly decently, then you should end up with a score of 40 plus.
Not 3 categories.
No, not 3 categories. No, the criteria is based on challenges only, not on the training. Yeah, so you must score a certain score on the platform to pass the criteria. It doesn't matter how many trainings you've done or not done really on the platform, but the more you do, the more likely you are to get a higher score.
Oh, no, I thought it was 3 full categories.
Is the expert one for both React and Java, so 40% hit?
I need to check the criteria on the React actually, I'm not entirely sure. Is it expert on React as well, or is it? I thought it was intermediate on React, but I think it's intermediate on React. Yeah. So Kate was 2nd. Kate did question 3. So between you, you've solved 2 questions on expert. So if you collaborate, then next time. And so it means Esteban has won again. And Esteban managed to solve the first 2 questions. So very well done again. Yep. So well done to everyone who did expert. Nice. So I think we'll probably just review question 4 and 5 on intermediate, unless people want to do. Do you want to do the whole lot, Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we can quickly go through the whole lot. There's no issue there. And maybe we'll just have a look at one intermediate question for the guys. One expert question. Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you need to go, you can go. No worries. Let's go intermediate first. Okay. First question. Anyone want to type, or shall I just run through them and you shout out some answers for me, yeah? The first question. What type of question does it look like? Higher order function, yeah? We can see on the left-hand side we're passing in some other functions as our arguments. So we'll set a couple of parameters up here. I'm going to set them to fn1 and fn2 for function 1 and function 2. Make sure I put a comma between them, right? There's two separate arguments. If you can't see the screen because of the sunlight, again, it is on YouTube, so you can watch both areas. How am I going to get the result of 6 then from two functions that return 2 and 3? What do I need to do? So I need to multiply the things together. fn1 multiplied by fn2. Anything else to make that work? Cheers, Raj. Problem is the third one doesn't have a second argument, so that's definitely one problem. Yep, so maybe we need a ternary in there. So if we haven't got a second function, what do? Just return the result of the first function. How do I check if we've got a second function? fn2. Okay, so will that work now? We need to invoke the actual functions. Nice, so we get the value out of them. How about now? Can you see? I can't zoom in anymore, sorry. Looks good to me. Yes, we've passed in two functions as arguments, checked whether we've got the second function. If we have got the second function, we're going to multiply the result of the first function, so we've invoked it, multiplied by the result of the second function. Otherwise, just give us the result of the first function. Make sense? Yeah? Happy? Yeah, cool, awesome. Question 2. Get the sorted array. How many arguments have we got? But here I've got 4. And then here I've got 1, and then here I've got 2. So do I do A, B, C and D and then ignore other things? What do I do? Yeah? Okay. Then what?
No, you use the rest.
Nice. So we can use the rest parameter to gather all of our arguments into an array. And I'm going to call that numbers because they're all numbers in this case. Yep, so we've now created a new array with the name of numbers. Or stored in a variable called numbers, yeah? What do I want to do with that numbers array?
Sort them.
Sort it, definitely, yeah? It's in the question. So numbers.sort, there's a method called sort. That's it, right, in this case? Yeah, return it, absolutely. But I don't need to add any sorting function. Why not? Yeah, so the default sorting algorithm would sort your numbers ascending, which all of these are, right? 2, 3, 6, minus 1, 3, 4, 6. Yeah, always going up in value, ascending. Is that one done as well? Yeah. Nice and simple. Get the merged arrays. How many arguments this time? 2, 2, 2. Always 2. Always 2 arrays, yeah? So why don't we call them array 1 and array 2? What do we want to return?
I thought in this case the number of parameter was not known. That's why I used the rest parameter as well.
Okay. So you would have gathered the 2 arrays into one array. Yeah, you'd have ended up with a nested array if you did that. If we've got a known number of arguments, so I think this function is just trying to merge 2 arrays as far as I'm aware, yeah, then we could have done it like that.
No, you.
Yeah, it says please use the rest parameter, so we're going to use the spread operator more like, but we're going to use the 3 dots. So how are we going to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, we want to return an array. Yep, spread array 1, and then spread array 2. And that's it again. I'm just going to open up another window because I want to see what code people have been writing for these questions as well, so we can see what other solutions people did, see if we can improve them. Scores again. So Ahmed, I think, just went wrong on that first one because actually, yeah, maybe for a few reasons, right? But he wasn't multiplying the functions themselves. He was doing a different version of a higher order function, right? He was returning a function rather than some values. But Kelly did something interesting there. Why did you do that one, Kelly? So you gathered everything into a numbers array, and then you spread the numbers inside another array, and then sorted it. Which is a bit unnecessary, really, yeah? So you could have just done nums.sort, and it would have been absolutely fine. It still works, of course, because you've just spread an array into a new array, but you've created a copy, if you like, of your numbers array. So Sonia just wrote it longhand, right? Not using an arrow function, instead uses the the pre-ES6 version of functions, which is absolutely fine. Faraj used array from arguments, so that works, of course, but we've said the modern syntax to create an array from your arguments is just to use the 3 dots in the parameter list, right? So these are doing the same thing, array from the arguments object or ... numbers. I prefer ... numbers. I think so do a lot of people. It can just get a bit confusing if we use this arguments objects. He's done it the correct way, creating an array from it, but I wouldn't recommend that in modern code, really. Yeah? Everyone else, I think the same. Ed, you just, that's, yeah, as you said, that's where you went wrong, right? You weren't gathering the arguments first, you were trying to get a certain number of arguments instead and then spread it. So I think you can see where you went wrong there, no worries. Everyone for this one, I think, did the same thing. Faraj again is going for different methods, Faraj and Sonia, oh no, and Kieran as well. So you've used the concat method, which of course is absolutely valid, and I wouldn't have anything against that in your code base instead of using the 3 dots. Just the question specifically asked, can you use the 3 dots, right? The spread parameter here, the spread operator here. What happened here for Ahmed? He's just getting a bit confused today, I think, right? So passed in a single array and then didn't concat anything onto that. It's probably a part solution, right? That was just run out of time or something like that. So Sebastian's saying hello to everyone. Hola.
But this was like
And ciao as well.
this was like my 4th strike. I tried some things before, and at this point I was just using
Random words to make yourself feel better about life. Okay, so yeah, I think we recognized your problem again, right? We said that it has a fixed number of inputs, so we can take both of those and spread it rather than joining, splitting, mapping. Let's try any single method we can and say hello and goodbye at the same time. Yeah, good attempts, Ev. It amuses me at least, right?
It would have been better if the variable would be called please and please.
Yep, something like that as well. Just beg, please work. Yeah. Why?
I'm begging.
All right, and I think we're now up to question 4, which is where things started to get a little bit tricky. Squaring the digits. So what we've got is we've got a number to begin with, just a single number, but we want to split it into its individual digits. So we want to split it into 9, 1, 1, and 9 in that case, and then square each digit. So 9 squared would be 81, 1 squared would be 1, 1 squared would be 1, 9 squared would be 81, and then join them all back together in the format of a number. We could definitely use maps somewhere in there, but we've got to use quite a lot of different things. So firstly, we've got a number. What do we want to do to that number first? Okay, so could I just do number dot split then? Could I? Does split work on numbers?
Oh, shoot, no, sorry, number string.
So let's convert it to a string first. Because we want to use the split method, and we can't use the split method on a number, so we convert it to a string first. We want to split it just with empty string, so that we get each individual digit, yeah? No spaces, no complete number, anything like that. Okay, so what do we have at this point? An array. What does the array contain? In the first case, yeah, 9, 1, 1, 9, right? So that's looking good. At that point, we've got that. Then we could probably map, right? We've got an array. Kieran suggested that we want to map. We want to transform something from 9 into its square, which would be 81. How am I going to do that? What goes inside my map function?
Number.
Cool, yeah. So my argument could be number. What do I want to do to that number?
Math.
Yeah, I could definitely do math.power, or I could just do number times number, right? That's a way to square a number as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There is math.power as well to raise something to a power.
That way, but I couldn't get it to work.
So we could do the number and we could square it, which is of course 2. If we want to cube it, put a 3 in there, and so forth. Yeah, I just do number times number for these things because it's a bit clearer for me. I don't have to invoke another method. But of course, if I was raising it to the power of 9, I don't think I'd write num times num times num 9 times. So I would use math.power instead. Yeah, math.power. Okay, so we should.
For instance,
Yep.
there's a map dot square root that just gives you the.
Yeah, there's a math.square root that gives you the square root of
Isn't
a
there
number.
a map dot square that just gives you the square? No.
As far as I'm aware, there is not a math.square, right? Because we have the more generic math.power instead. I don't think we could do math.square num like that. All right. Okay, so now at this stage, what have we got in our chain? We've still got an array, and we should have an array now of 81, comma 1, comma 1, comma 81. Yeah? We want to end up with a number looking like that instead of an array with all of those inside.
We'll join it to a string.
Cool, let's join it into a string. Without any spaces. And then what? So that's going to return a string, right?
Oh, and
Oh.
a number.
Something else wrong as well, I think.
Capital N number, and then you
Math. Oh, I've left the math.square in there rather than math.power. That's
I think we should change it to number times number. This number is a bit confusing.
Most people use this, Ed, so I'm going to leave that there. Yeah. It's taking the number and raising it to the power 2. So that's what it's doing.
You need to change the string to a number by doing.
I think the easiest way would be to, instead of returning that, to create a variable of that.
Okay, so let string answer or something like that. Yeah. Equal all of that stuff.
Return number.
And
parentheses.
use the number method to turn our string answer into a number. Yeah, it's fine. Works. Yeah.
I was struggling with the power.
Struggling with the power part? Yeah. So there's a lot going on in that one. We need to do lots of conversions. Turn it into a string, split it, transform it using map, join it again into a string, and then finally transform it into a number.
So the original one you did before, which was the way you're mapping it to number times number, doesn't work as well?
Absolutely, that still works, Ed. Yeah. So that can be rewritten to do exactly the same thing as number times number. Sure, that works. Yeah. Whatever you prefer out of those two. I prefer this. For me, it's easier. But I totally understand why people would use math.power as well. If I just returned it all in one go, for those that maybe did that, I would have had to wrap everything in a number, like that, and that would still return a number. Or I can use things like the bitwise operators, which we're not really going to cover, but we could just put a plus in front of it and that would coerce things into a number as well. So that's when you're a lazy developer and you're like, I want a number, I'm just going to put a plus in front of it. Yeah? But it's not very readable, is it? It's not very semantic. So for the sake of your developer friends or anyone you work with, maybe just do that. Unless they're old school. Yeah? If they've been developing a long time, they probably prefer the plus in front of it rather than using number. Okay? So a few different options there for that one. But do we understand the steps at least? Yeah? So that's pretty good for our problem solving approach, that question, yeah? It's a nice one to practice your problem solving approach. Breaking it down into manageable steps, writing some pseudocode, and then finding the correct method. Moving on? Yeah? Yes? No? Yes? Cool. Last one. Find the most populated country. What's our input?
Input is an array of objects.
An array of objects, nice. And each object represents a country and some data about that country, yeah? So I think most of you probably called it countries. Let's just have a quick look. Sorry, just flipping back onto question 4. See if anyone did anything different. Where did Catty go wrong? So she converted it to a string, but then
Yeah, because she got
tried to
square
use.
root.
You don't square root, that's what.
She tried to do square root, but also digits is still going to be a number, so digits dot split is going to throw an error. I don't think toString transforms the original variable. I think it needs to be stored into a new variable or chained on. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah. Kate, did you do something different, or same thing, right? You just use parse int to get a number at the end rather than using the number method, yeah? Cool. Some people have used number inside of map. That's what Esteban did. Oh no, it's not. He still used number to wrap everything, yeah. So that's very similar to what we did. Esteban's solution there. Kieran went for a for loop. You can tell the programmers that have come from other languages, right? For loops in almost every language. I'm just going to use that and see if I can get that one to work rather than using the. Yeah, Kieran's looked at other languages before, right? You've programmed a bit in Java and other languages, I think, Python a bit. Yeah. So, take me a while to process that. It's not as readable, is it, as Esteban's? I can clearly see what's going on there in Esteban's. So string, we've got a number to string 10. What does the 10 do? Kieran? What does the 10 do here? You don't know, you just thought you put a 10 in there. Alright. Don't know what you're laughing at, Seb. You do things like that all the time.
I thought I was the only one.
Oh, you know, you're not the only one. Yeah. And then we've initialized an array so that we can do what? Push things into it? No, just set it equal to some. Oh yeah, for each loop. So yeah, so you're essentially pushing things inside. Whew, yeah.
What have you done? I'm done.
Do you want to debug it for him? No, you just want to leave it. Okay, I'm quite happy to leave it. We can.
Farage is like an old man now. He's like
Oh.
the old days.
Look at Farage. Farage's got the plus and everything. Where did he learn that? Maybe I put that there for him actually. I think so. That might be why. Sonia must be very close. I think Sonia, right? You had an integer. You turned it to a string. Then you split it. Tried to map over each number. Maybe because of that. Because of the curly braces, you returned an object, I think, rather than.
No, it's because
No?
I understood the whole question wrong. So it wasn't working, but then I realized what was it. And then
Oh, I can't go back now, can I?
then my time was over. I was trying to fix it, like adding things. So the time was over. So it's just like a mix of two things.
Mix of two things, but I think yours was very close in the end. See if we can debug Sonia's, right? So at the moment, num is not defined. Yes, it's. So on line 5, num's definitely not defined for a start. Why is it not defined?
Is it such an object? You're trying to force.
Yeah, because it's inside half.
Yeah, it's inside map, right? This variable is local to this function, this inner function of map. So we definitely can't access it outside of the map. What else? So you're essentially you're still not returning anything. I think it's because of that, right? You're trying to return an object. And we're nearly there now, right? So now you're pretty much getting the correct values, but you're just returning a string rather than a number. So again, you could just do the same thing. Yeah? So let's go back a couple of steps. Why was that wrong? Why was line 5 wrong there? Where's the dot? Oh yeah, alright, so if I wrote it correctly and put dot split up there, right, but line 5, what is wrong with line 5? So why are these curly braces a problem? We don't need them, but it's actually breaking the code, so...
Because it's not letting the arrow function to be a function.
So when it's on the same line with an arrow function, it's like having an implicit return. Alright, so you're trying to essentially do this. Num arrow return some weird looking objecty type thing that isn't really an object, it's just sort of a block, and it doesn't make sense. It's just not correct syntax. So what you might have had at one stage, I guess, is had it on different lines like that. That's when we need the curly braces, and that's when we would need an explicit return. And that would probably still work, right? If you've got things on the same line as your arrow, the return's already done for you, and it doesn't make sense to have curly braces. Yeah, so if you're returning things on the same line, don't put any curly braces. If you drop down a line, either put some curly braces or just another set of brackets, and make sure that you have the return if you've got some curly braces. So it becomes a block of code then, yeah?
So if there are curly braces, you need the return.
If you've written an inner arrow function like this with some curly braces, then you need a return, yeah. You need to return something from that block of code. Otherwise it would just be undefined. Yeah, so interesting one, that one. Seb, no messages this time? No? It was a serious attempt.
No, the other one was serious as well at the beginning.
So let array numbers equals... Come on guys, help me debug, yeah? Really useful to help you learn. What was wrong with Seb's code? What are you pointing out, Jack?
In the argument for the function, so it's got the rest parameter.
Yeah.
I don't know what it does in the numbers.
Okay, so number was 9119, right? Just one argument. So all Seb's done is that. He's gathered one argument into an array. So you're going to have an array with one argument. With one item in it that's a number. So he's then trying to say array dot to string. I think that should work. I think we'll then have a string. So I think we're then going to have. I think we're then going to have that down here, and we call to split on it. So we then should end up with our array of... Yeah, so I think the error is more with this one, right? So we've ended up with 9, 1, 1, 9, all as strings. So that's what we've got after line 5.
Ah, well, then I cannot multiply strings.
You can't multiply two arrays together. Yeah, if we return that one, array numbers times array, I'll put ret run again. Yeah, you didn't return anything. Why do those two work? Not quite sure. We've split things. It's got a single digit. Yeah, so I think it can manipulate an array of a single number into a number. It's got no problem doing that. So that's why it still works, because it's only got one element in the array. But when you have multiple elements in the array, it just confuses it. And then you're trying to... That's not even defined, is it? Array square dot join. Oh, but it was, wasn't it? It was defined. Yeah. So a few things, right? You can't multiply arrays was the main issue with that one. So you'd have to instead map over it, multiply each element by itself, and then you can join it and turn it into
I tried before
a
the map, but I couldn't get to work I was looking for something opposite of the square root. I couldn't find it. I couldn't make the pow.
Yeah, the math.pow instead, yeah.
Then I was trying different approaches, which didn't work either.
Okay, no worries. Kieran's going for his old style if again as well. And then Jack tried a map.
I was just playing around with
Alright, let's do question 5 from scratch. Alright guys, start me off. Who's going to start me off? Countries? So what type of data is countries, Ed? String? That doesn't look like a string.
An array of objects. Yeah.
Array of objects, yeah, as we said before. Nice. Then what do I want to do with that array of objects?
We want to return.
Say again, Kieran? We want to return just the name as a string of the most popular country in the end. Yep. So you might eventually want to do something like object dot name, right? Oh, not dot name, just like that. But we'll see when we get there. What do we have to do first to... Yeah, definitely sort our countries so that we get the highest populated one first, the most populated one first. How do I do that?
We can't filter that?
Filter how? How would you filter it? Filter it?
No, I mean, I don't know, find the one that has the biggest number on population.
But how would you tell what was the biggest number?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? How could you code the highest number? Sometimes the highest number might be 801, sometimes the highest number might be a huge number. It's going to vary, and it's not an easy way algorithmically, I don't think, to find that. But we have got the sort method, which would be very useful for this, and that is your resource down here. Sorting arrays will take you to the documentation for array.sort. So let's use it. How do I sort things by population? We need some sort of sort function. Yep. So I could say country 1 and country 2 are my arguments into my sort function. Who said?
Kieran?
We've never used it like that, but you can use it like that for more powerful sorting methods rather than just the default sort. So if we just called sort on it, it can't sort objects. It doesn't understand how to sort objects, so nothing would change. We need to write some sort of custom sorting function that compares country 1 with country 2, for example. I'm not saying this is correct yet. What aspect of country 1 and country 2 are we interested in? What can we compare? The population. So how do we access the population of country 1? We can use dot syntax to access some object properties. Yep, dot
It doesn't matter
population.
the amount of countries that we have.
Well, the sort function only compares 2 at a time. So the sort function will iterate over, and for each country, it will compare this with this, and then if one is higher than the other, it will swap the order, and then it will compare the second one with the third one, do the algorithm, swap them if necessary, and just keep going through as many times as it needs. Yeah, so this one will make 2 comparisons, this function will make 3 comparisons to check everything's in the correct order. Make sense? Population, right? Again, I've put the curly braces, so I'm going to need my return statement. The viewer's gone really weird now, right? Oh, what's happened? Oh, lost it. Good job I saved it, right? Is this going to sort things in the correct order? Country 1 minus country 2's population.
I think it will put the smallest first.
Yeah, this one is going to put the smallest first. So we in fact need to do it the other way around, because remember ascending is the default. So that so I always have to look up the sort function to get the exact details. I just tend to remember them by their functions rather than the actual behavior of it. But if you come down here, the function that we've written is our compare function. So if the compare function is less than 0, then we sort the first country to come first. So if we did A minus B, and that got a negative number, it would mean A comes before B. So in other words, yeah, you're quite right, the smallest value would be first, is what that's saying. If our compare function ends up with a value greater than 0, then we move B to an index lower than A. So let's put that into practice. Just tell me what's higher and lower, you don't have to give me the exact values, but if A was, oh god, I can't even read what value that is, 44 million and something, and B was 59 million and something, what's higher? So B minus A will get us a number greater than 0, yeah? In which case we put B at an index lower than 0, lower than A. So we've swapped them. Yeah, B is greater, it goes at an index before A, which means Italy and Ukraine are going to swap places on that first match. Then it's going to look at 44 million and 7 million and do 44 million minus 7. No, it's not. It's going to do 7 minus 44, right? Is that negative or positive? It's negative, so therefore A stays at an index lower than B. So we end up with a sorted value of Italy, Ukraine and Bulgaria in that order, which is correct. As I say, I just remember this, right, rather than the negatives and the positives and zeros. But that's, if you want to read further how the actual algorithm works, then that is a good thing to read right there. Try and understand that with many different use cases. So, if we test that, of course, we're still just returning the whole array. So how do we return just Italy?
We should put at the end of the return all that between parentheses and dot name, or not?
All that between parentheses,
I mean
dot name. Is there? No?
All the return, all that we have on return.
I'm going to just make this a little bit shorter, right? C1 and C2, just so we've got a bit more room. So in here, Seb, or in here? What are you saying?
In line 3.
Line 3, you want to do?
Put return countries.
So at this stage,
no, actually,
I've got the
from
whole
line,
array.
From line 2 until the end of
Bless you. So if I've got an array of objects, I want to access one of those objects and return the name. I want to access the first one. How do I access the first? Yeah.
Countries at index 0.
So can I just put index 0 like that? Yep. And then what do I want from the first object? Dot name. So I could absolutely do that, and that would be correct. Cathy did a slightly different method, which again I've got no issue with whatsoever.
Can you do that without putting the index number or not?
Yeah, so what Cathy did instead is she used the shift method. What does the shift method do? Shift removes the first item in an array, which in this case was the Italy object, and in this case was the Russia object, yeah, because we'd sorted it to have the highest population. She then shifted it out of the array and then returned the name, which also works. Which method do you prefer and why? You prefer the index method? Why?
I think they're both the same. It's just the
Readability is better, easier than index. Shift really not.
What's the values of countries going to be there?
If you shift it,
Yeah, I've shifted it here. So in this case, what is the value of countries?
Oh, it's just the entire array.
The entire array, yeah. What will the entire array contain? Objects. How many? 3, 4. In the first case,
2.
2. Yeah, it's only going to have 2. What objects are going to be left?
It will have Ukraine and Bulgaria.
It will have Ukraine and Bulgaria, correct, right? Ukraine's there, And if we did scroll over, it doesn't really let us, but Bulgaria is definitely there as well. So we have removed Italy permanently from the countries array. If we were going on to do further operations on that countries array, we might be in trouble. If we access index 0 and then get the name from it, how many countries are left in our countries array?
3.
3 now. Italy's still there. So I prefer this method because it doesn't modify our original data. Catty's method would not be a pure function. If we run that function over and over again, after we've run it 3 times, we'd have nothing left in our array. We'd have no countries left. Yeah, so in modern JavaScript and modern program, we often prefer to write pure functions with no side effects, these sorts of things. So for that reason, I would prefer just accessing it via the index 0. Yeah, I know it works in this case, but I don't think it's the best approach long term. Any questions? Does anyone want to see an expert question and what these guys managed to solve and do one of them? Yeah? So, you're right, just to do the first expert question, because I think only Esteban got it. So, is that okay for you other 2 who didn't? Yeah, but you didn't solve the first question, did you? So is it okay to solve the first question now? Yeah. Only Esteban solved the first one. Yeah. Okay, so this is the question. Is divisible by a previous digit? What do we have to do? Well, we are given a float number. So a float number is just integer plus decimal parts. Yeah, we call that a float often in programming. Please ignore the decimals if there are any. So that's step 1, I guess, right? We could start doing this as a pseudocode sort of thing. Please ignore the decimals if any. For the first digit, please check whether it's divisible or not by the last one. Okay, so that's one step we need to do somehow. And it says, remember 0 is evenly divisible by all integers but not the other way around. So I guess just a little warning there, right? And the general sort of algorithm we need to do, if it's not the first digit, then our approach is to check if each digit is divisible by the digit on its left. By divisible, in this case, it seems that from pattern sniffing, it means exactly divisible. So in other words, there is no remainder. So for the first digit, it's a 7. Please check whether it's divisible by the last digit. What's the last digit in this case? 2. Yeah, because we're ignoring the decimal bits, right? So we're just left with 2. So is 7 exactly divisible by 2, or does it have a remainder? It has a remainder. So false. It's not exactly divisible by 2. Is 3 divisible by the digit to its left? So is 3 divisible by 7?
Sorry, why did we start it with the last number instead of the one to the left?
Right, because that was in the instructions. For the first digit, please check whether it's divisible by or not by the last one. So that's what I did. For every other digit, please check if the digit is divisible by the digit on its left. All right, they're the instructions. I'm just following those. So, is 3 divisible by 7? Exactly. No. So we get false. Is 3 divisible by 3? Yeah. True. Is 1 divisible by 3? No. False. Is 2 divisible by 1?
Yes.
True. Okay. So that seems to work, right? And I could repeat the same thing. Is 2 divisible by 6? No. Is 0 divisible by 2? Well, it's a bit weird, right? But yes, remember it says 0 is evenly divisible by all integers, apparently. We still get a 0, right? 0 divided by anything is still 0 with no remainder. So, makes sense. So the pattern seems to hold. Let's go to our first step. How do we ignore the decimals?
Round.
With round?
Math round.
Round might work, but we're not actually rounding, we just want to ignore the digits. So if I rounded that number, Seb, I would end up with 73,313. So it would...
Floor.
With floor, I like that, yeah. People agree that we could ignore the decimals with math.floor. Yeah, so I could essentially have math.floor number. Yeah, we've rounded it down. So rounding down just means essentially whatever's there we've ignored. Right? So the number in front of the decimal is going to stay exactly the same. Make sense? So that's step 1. We've ignored the decimal. Then how do we get each digit out of our number? Split, yeah, but can we split a number? So what do we want to do first? Let's convert it to a string first. Nice. So I can use the toString method that we saw earlier. So now we've got an array of 7, 3, 3, 1, 2. It's looking pretty good. Next, what method do you think we should use? What other pattern can you see there between the number of numbers and the items in an array? Kate suggested map. Do we think that's a good idea or not? Kieran says no. I'm not sure he knows why. But
Yeah, I think so.
map allows you to perform a function to every single thing, yeah? Every single item in the array.
That would be yes.
So map's really useful when the number of items in our current array equals the number of items in our final array. We have 7 numbers, 7 items in our array there. 4 numbers. Did I say 7? Sorry, it's because the digit is 7. But we have 5 numbers, 5 digits there. We have 5 values in our array. 4 numbers, 4 values in the array. Yeah, so I think map could work. Let's go with that for now, yeah? Let's call a map. Right. Which one do you want to do first? For the first digit or for each other digit? First digit. Okay, how do I tell that something is the first digit?
Index 0.
Index 0. I like that a lot. What arguments can we give to map? It always takes the value. We can also give it an index and an array argument. Then we can do the test that Seb has suggested. So I'm just setting up my function now. Okay. So you essentially want to say if index, which I called I, should I call it index? Does that make more sense for you? If index triple equals 0, then do something. Yeah? So what are we going to do if the index is 0?
Then
We want
divide it by the largest index number. We do something dot length.
We want to check whether the current number in the array is divisible by the last number in the array.
We do number dot length plus 1. No,
minus
Okay, so you're saying number dot length minus 1. What's num though? Where's num? I haven't got a num anywhere. Number. I could use number, but I'd prefer to use the array, right? That's my reference to the original array, so I'm going to use array.length minus 1. Okay, array, yeah, rather than number, square brackets, array.length minus 1. Cool. That would access the last number in the array. I agree with that. What are we comparing that to? Or what are we checking? We're checking whether the current value divided by the last value in the array has no remainder. So that is a test that we could do. If the index, if it's the first item in the array, right, if the index is 0, then return the value divided by the last one if it's equal to 0. So if it has no remainder, put true, and if it has a remainder, that's going to evaluate to false. Yeah? Else, for every other number, do what? Current value, yeah. And how do I access it's the previous one actually. Digit on its left, so it would be the previous digit. How do I access the previous digit?
Value dot length minus 1.
Not quite.
What do you value index minus
Value index minus 1, is that what you're saying? But the value is the current value, so the value is just a number. It doesn't make sense to do value index minus 1. Array, yeah. Yeah, the previous item in the array. Current one, which you could also write as array index. Previous one, which you just write array index minus 1. Yeah? What? I'm sure we probably made some mistakes along the way. Let's see what we get. Didn't return anything, because I'm definitely not returning anything, that's why. Okay. So, looks like the first one is okay. We've got a false, I've got a true, I've got a false. So line 7 seems to be correct. Why is line 10 returning a number rather than true or false?
Because you have not used the equal.
Yeah, we have no comparison, right? We still need to check whether the remainder is equal to 0 or not. We do that, it works. Tidy up the elegance. 13.2. Well, let's get rid of all the comments now. We don't need them. Okay, so that would be an expert question solved. Questions on what it's doing first, and then we'll tidy it up a little bit as well. You have a question on what it's doing, Jack? Many?
I sort of know what it's doing, but where my confusion with the math method, I'm not saying I don't have that solution, that's what I'm referring to use. It's syntax on the coordinate, so you've got current value is the current value.
Yeah, sure. So I can do that. Is current val all right, at least?
Yeah.
Yeah? You got to go, Kate, yeah?
But
Are you going to do some other?
No, this is the last one. Last one. Yeah, definitely. Taking a lot of time as it is. What else is confusing, Jack?
The
I want to call that array as well.
that, I think that's the bit where I'm getting confused. Are you saying the array can you split it, so that's the array that you've made?
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting confused.
Yeah. So
So the current value in the array and then arrays.
whoops.
Okay.
So that's our array in the first question. Why does it appear 5 times? Well, there's 5 items in the array, right? So I'm console logging 5 times. It never changes, the array, right? It's just whatever the array was at this point. After we'd floored the number, we'd turn it into a string and we'd split it. So what array are we calling map on? We're calling map on this array here. Yeah? So that's what the value of the array is. And then of course my second test case comes out. My array is 2026 and so forth.
And then you pass in the index in the dot map because you need it to have the index number of the dot map, not the index number of the original number you had when you stored it.
They're one and the same, but yes, this is.
Yeah. I was thinking more because it's a decimal point. You got rid of that purpose from the floor method. So if you had that in it and messed it up, so the first number would be divided by 4 in the decimal point, right?
My first, yes, yeah. So because we floored it, I mean there was no array to begin with, Jack. This was just a number, right? But yeah, it's the index after applying all these other methods.
Just to make sure.
Yeah. I don't really like the if-else statement. Should we rewrite it as a ternary?
Yeah.
How do we do that? Start with return. Nice. So if the index is 0, then do all of that mumbo jumbo. Otherwise, do all of that stuff. Looks a bit neater. Still works. Yeah, so not that much code still. So that's one of the easier questions on Expert. So you can see that they often combine lots of methods. They're not new things. We used all of these in intermediate, right? We used toString, split, map in the earlier questions. The use of map is getting a bit more advanced. We're passing more arguments into it, yeah, and differentiating inside of our function based on conditions. But apart from that, it should all be stuff that you've covered. It's just understanding the question, breaking it down into small manageable parts, and gradually coming up with a solution. Yeah.
We jump from intermediate to experts and a bit like beginning, and we jump from beginner to
Well,
intermediate.
I'm not so sure about that. Maybe when I'm doing it up here for you, but if you.
No, I'm not saying I'll be able to do it.
No, but the leap from beginner to intermediate
Yeah,
is quite big.
I was like Jesus and never learned to do intermediate. I'm fortunate expert.
And
It's a bit easier intermediate as well.
this one's very similar, right? It's dividing by the next number and just returning a number rather than an array with true or false. So you should be able to take the code from your first Math 1 and do something similar.
Did Esteban manage to pass today?
Esteban answered the first two questions, so he answered these two questions that we've just seen. Did he pass? I don't think he got over 40.
He got 36.
He got 30 something. He would have needed to get three questions correct to get a mark of over 40.
Almost there.
It was very, very close. So I'm sure next time we do a
No cigar.
close but no cigar, as Ed harshly says. But I'm sure next time he will get it right.
But if he gets another question from any other